Yeah. All right, good evening, everyone. Thank you for being a part of our meeting tonight. I'd like to call the meeting of Brooklyn City Council to order. Mary Jo, can you please call the roll?
Sue Grodick.
Here.
Ron Van Kirk.
Here.
Meg Ryan Shaki.
Here.
Andy Selhertz.
Here.
Kathy Pucci.
Here.
Aaron Borowski.
Here.
Kevin Tansky.
He is absent this evening, excused. Would you please join me this evening in the Pledge of Allegiance? Please stand. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated. At this time, we'll turn it over to Ms. Ryan Shaki for this evening's opening.
Thank you. I'd just like to have a moment of silence in recognition of National Stalking Awareness Month. Thank you. Thank you.
The first item on our agenda this evening is the minutes from our January 10th meeting. Are there any comments or questions regarding those minutes?
May I be recognized?
Yes.
Under my comments, when I was speaking about the elimination of the regular comments, the regular committee meeting for finance, I just don't think there's enough there to actually make it clear of what my points were. So I'd just like to send some information to Mary Jo and work with her on that, if that's okay with everybody.
Yes, and we'll take them up the next meeting.
Thank you.
All right, at this time, we'll have the public session. If anyone in the audience has anything to say for the good and welfare of the city of Brooklyn, please step forward, state your name and address, and you'll be recognized. Please remember to keep your comments to 5 minutes or fewer. All right, there's no one this evening. We'll now move on with reports of committees, commissions, and boards. The Committee of the Whole did meet this evening prior to our council meeting at 6:15 to discuss the following. Ordinance 2021-37, amending section 136099 for failure to comply with notice of neglect or neglect of maintenance. This was discussed a couple of meetings ago. It's basically a housekeeping item to adjust our ordinances, and the committee did recommend the council adopt this evening. Resolution 2022-22 is on first reading this evening, but hope to pass by suspension of the rules. This would create an additional 5 days of paid leave for our employees. If it's applicable to COVID-19 quarantining, it is retroactive to January 1 of this year and must be used prior to June 30th of this year, 2022. And the committee recommended council adopt by emergency this evening. And then lastly was Ordinance 2022-1. This is an update to the capital improvement plan for 2022. And this is in regards to the rec center roof. We anticipated going out for bonds, a 10-year bond for this roof at $852,000. When we started doing some pricing for this, the project has gone up significantly. And so it's an increase of $265,000. And so we will, if this is adopted, it will adjust the roof cost from $852,000 to a not to exceed amount of $1,117,000. In addition to that, Mr. Selhertz gave us an update on the changeover to the LED lighting in the city of Brooklyn, and so hopefully we'll be seeing some progress on that in the next couple of weeks. Also, Mr. Raguse gave a financial report. He will discuss that when he gives his report a little bit later in tonight's meeting. Again, the Committee of the Whole takes place at 6:15. All are welcome to attend. We'll now move on with with legislative update. Mr. Borowski.
Thank you, Council President Ron. My update for today is about Ohio House Bill 126. This bill works to prohibit school districts from challenging tax evaluations on properties. The bill was passed in the Ohio Senate this past December, and under current Ohio school district laws Ohio school districts can challenge a property's value to increase the assessed value or fight the property owner's attempt to lower their assessed value. If this is signed, which I believe it will be by Mike DeWine, our governor, a few of the points that go into it is that it prohibits the school district from initiating complaints at the county board's revision unless the school district is the owner of the real estate subject to complaint. And it also prohibits the school district from appealing the decision of a board of revision to the Ohio Board of Tax Appeals. And that's my update.
Thank you, sir. The Board of Zoning Appeals met, on the 20th, January 20th, to discuss one item. It was a request from Jenny Canderas for a 3-inch variance to the required minimum clearance between fences of 18 inches at 4116 Parkside, and this was deferred to the next meeting. We'll now move on to our Planning Commission. Mrs. Grodick.
Thank you. The Planning Commission met on January 5th, and we approved a new updated illuminated sign for ferrous metal processing. And there will not be a February meeting because there haven't been any applicants. And that ends my report.
Thank you. Last reports for commissions and boards is our school board liaison, Councilwoman Pucci.
Good evening. I attended the school board meeting on Tuesday, January 18th at 6 p.m. in room 173 of the high school. The beginning of the meeting was a presentation by GDP, who was hired to do a facilities study. This was just a first look at the report. GDP did use the OFCC guidelines, which are the Ohio School Facilities Construction Commission, and this is in case in the future the schools would apply for any funding through them. The GDP shared that jobs that were approved 2 years ago are now just going out to bid, and they are experiencing increases from 15 to 20%. As of now, they estimate that Brooklyn would be eligible for 11% from OFCC whenever they would come up on the list. You do need to join, and you need to be spending $1 million, and then your percentage is locked in and cannot be reduced. They did stress that this was just a first look. There are 100 tasks in this report, and they've been given a priority of light, moderate, or high. The school board will be taking their time to analyze this report and then develop their plan. And this report was sent to all of council, and it's also on the school's website. Dr. Claris thanked the maintenance and custodial staff at the schools for their efforts during the snowstorm, and also thanked Mr. Verba and the City of Brooklyn Service Department. The schools did receive a clean audit. They passed a resolution partnering with Lorraine Community College for College Credit Plus for the 2022-23 school year. They approved the 2022-23 school calendar. They approved a contract with North Coast Shared Services Alliance for subbing, and they are going to $90 to $100 a day to attract more subs. They hired various classified staff and subs. They accepted the retirement of Mr. Mark Tansky. They approved the Winter Dance fundraiser. They affirmed that board members will receive $125 per meeting with a maximum up to $5,000, and that is set by state law. They passed a contract for the superintendent, which takes him through July of, I believe it was 2026, and accepted the withdrawal of the resignation from the treasurer, and then passed a new contract for the treasurer that takes her through July of 2024. The next meeting of the school board is their work session, which is Tuesday, February 1st at 6 p.m. in the treasurer's office. And the next regularly scheduled board meeting then is Tuesday, February 15th, 6 p.m. And they're meeting in room 173 in the high school. And that completes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Pucci. We'll now move on with reports of council. We'll begin this evening with Mrs. Grodick.
Thank you. Just a few things. I'm probably just going to be the first of several thank yous to our service department for digging us out of the snow, not only last weekend, but then again this weekend. And also, I would like to remind residents, many of us know, but as I was looking outside on my own street yesterday, watching the snow fall and having cars parked on the street, it's so important that the streets cannot be plowed if we have cars parked on there as efficiently as they could if they're not. So I know it's inconvenient often, especially during the day, but when we want to get our streets cleaned, it's really important that we follow those snow bans. I also would like to thank Mr. Rowan for the very nice open house meeting with the zoning update. It wasn't really well attended. It was another cold, snowy night, But if you are interested, please visit the website. It's a separate website, but you can get to it by going to the city's website. The website address is brooklynohzoning.com, and it has all the materials that were shared at this open house. It has Mr. Rowan's email, so if you have any questions about the documents. There aren't drastic zoning changes being proposed, but there are some things that we would like to have input. So please go look at the materials and use this opportunity to give the city your input. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Mrs. Ranchaki.
So I'm gonna go off of Sue here and just say, first off, kudos to the service garage. I heard from a coworker that one resident in Brooklyn, in Cleveland, was talking about the difference, and she knows where the city street ends and starts because Brooklyn's are a lot cleaner. But just thank you to our service garage for that. And also going off of with what Sue said about the open house, this zoning code will have to come to a vote to the residents. So educate yourselves now, listen, give your input, because at the end of the day, it's up to all of us as residents to, vote on and pass a full zoning code change. Two other things I just want to mention is the Community Solutions 5 Things You Need to Know this week highlighted Dolly Parton's Imagination Library. If you don't know about this project, it's a way that kids age birth to 5 can get free books, and Ohio participates through our governor's program as well. So help get the word out. As of June 2021, more than 1/3 of all children under 5 in Cuyahoga County were enrolled in this program. So if you're not yet enrolled, I know Councilman Borowski has a newborn himself, so definitely look into it. You can learn more at imaginationlibrary.com. To any grandparents, let the parents know if they live in Ohio about this program as well. And then finally, going off, winter is finally here. Legal aids update this week had information about Northeast Ohio winter utility assistance. Funds to help qualifying Ohioans with electric and gas rates are available. You can call CHN Housing Partners for more information at 216-350-8008. That ends my report.
Thank you. Mr. Silverts.
Thank you. Ditto on the thank yous to Mr. Verba and his staff with the service department. Even following up a little bit on what Meg said about the difference on city streets compared to others. Saw that Channel 19 actually did a little story on Biddulph. Kind of know definitely where the border is once you cross the border. Agree with Mrs. Grodek on the presentation by Mr. Rowan with the zoning. It was kind of sad to see the attendance. It was scarce or sparse, and that was being on its side. Talking about with the LED street project with Real Term, they do have a final draft. They presented it to First Energy. We're trying to get some results back from them. First Energy uses like a type 3 distribution for the LED heads on the lamps. Type 3 is kind of more, instead of being wide, it's narrow and longer, so there's more light pollution. What Real Term's trying to do is actually have First Energy go into a type 2 distribution, which will be more sidewalk to sidewalk, so it won't be light pollution going into residents' windows, etc. And it actually should be a little bit more cost effective because in some situations with the light pollution, you actually have to have First Energy come back out and put shields on the fixtures. Probably a good example of that is Summer Lane at the end by 480, where there's definitely a lot of light pollution, and actually a fixture is probably about to double the strength of what you need. Going into safe routes to schools, and Mrs. Pucci can expand upon it, looking into getting an application for a grant for 20 mile per hour school zone lights to get upgraded. That's getting put into the works. On the lighter side, if you like high school sports and especially boys basketball, please take a time to go out see the boys JV and varsity basketball teams. They're doing really good this year. Games this week are tomorrow night or Tuesday, and then also on Friday night. They're having good seasons, so it's kind of fun to watch, and it's a cheap evening. More on the fun side, Brooklyn Athletic Boosters and Pros Prom Committee will be holding the annual Night at the Races on Saturday, February 26th, 2022 at the UAW Hall on Chevy Boulevard. Doors open at 5:30, dinners at 6, races begin at 7. There'll be a 50-50 basket raffle, sideboards. Tickets are $25 each. You can contact Kelly Supek at 216-978-8453. Michelle Hilke at 216-647-3223, or Angie Helmick at 216-536-4457 for tickets for buying a horse or just needing additional information. And the last thing is, as of now, the food giveaways that were by Bubba's Yard the last year, they were held in the St. Elias's Church parking lot, are scheduled to start back up on April 26th. When it gets closer, we'll have more details to be given out. Over the past 3 years, about 100 tons of food has been given away. That concludes my report.
Thank you, sir. Mrs. Pucci.
Thank you. This is going to be an evening of redundancy. I too would like to thank the service department for their efforts. And I understand, and I think most of us up here understand the challenges that our service department encounters when the snow is continuous and lengthy. I'm sure I wasn't the only one who got a few calls from people who were upset. And Mr. Verba, when it's time for the director's report, could you just give a very brief overview of, what our challenges are with the staffing and how we rotate the staff, the whole situation when we have a lot of snow for a very lengthy period, just to kind of educate the residents. I too would like to thank Mr. Rowan for the open house for the zoning code review. I do think it was presented very nicely, and there was information then in the packets that provide the information on what the actual changes in proposed changes in regulations are going to be as well. I do wish that more residents had been able to attend. I understand that it was a cold, snowy night, but as it's already been mentioned by some of my colleagues, please make sure you go on the website and review this, and please give us your feedback. On safe routes to school, Mr. Garrison, our engineer, is going to look at the feasibility of us getting an application in for an infrastructure grant. This would be for the school zone flashing lights. These were called for as countermeasures in our original school travel plan, which should help our application. And the original locations were Bidoff, Southwood, Burwell, North Amber, and Ridge. And I know that there's some discussion, since we already have the overhead lights on Bidoff, should we keep those? Because the replacements would be the flashing 20-mile-an-hour signs that are on a pole. So I think the consensus was that as long as Chief Milkey and the engineer thought that it would be good to keep the one on Bidoff how it is, that I think that's the way we're going to go. Finally, I would like to welcome Mr. Hurst as our new building commissioner. I look forward to working with you. And that completes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Burrell.
All right, thank you. With Mr. Selhertz, I actually got to know Andy a little bit at the Baba's giveaway. I'll definitely be there with you guys again, Ms. Shockey as well. I think that's a great opportunity to give back to the local community. So I'll definitely be looking towards that. Ms. Shockey, about the Dolly Parton book giveaway, we actually do that already, and I think that's something that a lot of children can benefit from, especially me. Like, I'm excited to see what new book, especially, we've had some repeat books from people that have actually bought books, but hey, I don't mind reading it twice, a little Leo. So redundancy again, Mr. Verba, the service department, great job through the 2 snowstorms that we had last week and even today. Good job. So we do appreciate all the work that you guys do, and that's it.
Thank you. Just a couple of things. Yeah, my children have actually been enrolled in that since Tanner was young, and so he's too old for it now. But Judah's in the perfect age, and they're really good, wholesome books. They really are. They do a good job with that. So that's a great program. So I think there was an article on Cleveland.com about that as well. All right. So, but thank you so much for bringing that up. It is a good program, and I'm going to be redundant too. And I've already texted John and called him. But again, major kudos to our guys. I had many people in church yesterday comment to me how well Brooklyn was cleared. They were very grateful. People don't even live in Brooklyn. So thank you for that. I know that some people were upset. I guess people are always upset, but man, as bad as that snow was, it was excellent. And so I just want to say thank you. We're very blessed to live in this city. I will just say that for as bad as it was, Brooklyn did a great job. So John, please pass our thank yous for everybody from City Council up to your guys. And with that, I'll turn it over to the mayor.
Thank you, Council President Van Kirk. Welcome, Ted Hurst, to your official first meeting, our new building commissioner that was confirmed by City Council at the last meeting. They sent you over to the little kid seats. I don't know why they didn't allow you to the big cake table, but we'll have to correct that. I sent out some annual reports to City Council, just some highlights from the fire annual report. We had about 2,900 service calls in 2021, 2,000 EMS calls. Just under 1,500 of those were transported to the hospital. 845 fire calls, 9 of which were structure fires. And in our service department annual report, a couple highlights. They had just over 4,200 tons of waste and picked up 606 tons of recycling. They planted 191 trees last year, and they also had a very successful auction, getting rid of 13 of our older pieces of equipment for just about $74,000. Both of these annual reports are now linked to the city's website if you want to check them out with more detail. And as other annual reports come in, I'll give a few highlights of that as well. And just to add to the Imagination Library, the article that Mr. Van Kirk was referring to is actually pretty cool. Case Western did a study of the release of the Imagination Library, and they showed that with the release of the Imagination Library in the state of Ohio, kindergarten readiness assessments actually increased. So it's a very positive correlation. So I urge you to sign up if you have kids in that age. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple of director's reports. Mr. Verba, can you address what you mentioned, then we'll turn it over to Mr. Verba.
Sure. Thanks, Councilman Van Kirk. Just to let everybody know, back in the old days, a lot of our service department employees, we used to have a lot more employees, and they used to work 24 to 36-hour shifts. And that's like, when I came in, I was like, that's not going to happen. We're not going to risk the safety of themselves and the motorists. So we now go according to OSHA standards, and they work 12-hour shifts. If they work a regular day, they work 8 hours, and then they're allowed to work 8 more hours. After that, they're sent home. So with the less of the workforce and also these restrictions, so it is hard to keep up. When you have a 2-day storm that you're aware of, you have to kind of plan for the back end of the storm as well, not just, right away, because we're going to need guys later as it continues to snow. So we try to do the best we could. We always do the main roads first. We found out we had a hard time with keeping up because once we started to go to side streets, the main roads, we need attention again. So we would have to pull the guys off the mains or off the sides and put them back on the main road. And I know some of my neighbors even, I guess you kind of find out who your friends are and who your friends aren't in these times of, and I got a nasty text from a neighbor down the street, which, that he got stuck and blah, blah, blah. Well, there's nothing we can do. If you can't get to the main road, you're not going to be able to get out at all. So we always have to do the main roads first. Then we do the side streets. Then we have to plan accordingly to do the sidewalks. So that's another 2 guys. So they can't be working 12 hours before and then put them in a little bombardier and have them go, 6 more hours in the morning. So, and then on top of all that, we have the senior driveway. So this past storm, we were very fortunate that we were able to strategically plan everything. And thanks to Tom Bruzek, Marty Reedy, that we were able to get to the driveways right away on Tuesday. I thought we would possibly push them off another day. And again, we were able to do all this and still do our rubbish pickup. So that was great. Today, the first major storm, we had 7 trucks, 6 of them were out, pretty much came through pretty good. Now this storm that we're dealing with right now, our 7 trucks, we're down to 3 trucks. I just got a text that one of our trucks blew a tire out of Brook Park. So we're down to 3 trucks right now. Hopefully 2 of them will be back up and running tomorrow. We're waiting for parts. One of the parts was an oil line that's coming from North Carolina. The only place we could find it. So we are dealing with a lot of unknowns with these storms. And like I said, we just try to do the best we can. And we always try to make sure that the main roads are definitely priority 1. And I think that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gerber, appreciate it. Okay, Mr. Reed?
Yes, good evening. Just one item for me tonight. So it's the general fund overview for 2021. Overall, on the revenue side, overall revenues are 128% of the estimated amount and 25% more than prior year due to an increase of income tax collections of $3.7 million. About half of that increase of $3.7 million is due to one-time non-recurring revenue from net profit distributions and withholding payments from various businesses located within the city. On the bottom half of the income statement on the commitments, overall commitments are 96% of the amended budget amount. If you normalize for the federal money we received and the one-time transfers we did, overall commitments were 97.5% of the initial budget amount. So we stayed within budget overall as far as the initial budget is concerned. Also, overall commitments are 24% more than prior year. If you normalize it for federal money as well as one-time transfers that we did, overall commitments are 4% more than 2020. Much of that related to wages, full-time and part-time, as well as increase in payments to RETA due to an increase in income tax collections. Therefore, there's an increase to our RETA distributions we give them. Overall, on the general fund finished the year $6.1 million surplus, revenues over expenditures for the year. We took the approach that we agreed upon at the City Council budget work session in November to allot that money to various funds. So we transferred $1.5 million to the Economic Development Fund for various projects within that fund. We transferred $2.8 million to the City Center Fund due to the overage that we've seen with the City Center project. And we transferred $1.9 million to the Bond Retirement Fund to pay for the debt service associated with the City Center project. So the general fund finished the year with an unencumbered balance of $16.25 million. That's on the general fund side. Now also on the income tax revenues that we received in January, total distributions were $594,000 less than prior year. That is due to the non-recurring one-time revenue we received as far as the large net profit distribution that was received in 2021. If you exclude that, since we don't budget for that, so if you exclude that, overall income tax revenue was 7% more than prior January of 2021. Much of that is associated with an increase in net profit and individual taxes. Withholdings increased by $3,000 or 0.3%. So overall good news, stable news with the income tax collections in January of this year. That concludes my report tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Raguse. Appreciate that, very thorough. We'll now move on with our other items on the agenda. The first item that we have is a confirmation of appointment to the Recreation Board. I have a letter from the mayor. Dear members of council, I am requesting council confirmation of the appointment of Ms. Kim Scott to the City of Brooklyn's Recreation Board. She will be filling a vacancy with the term expiring on December 31st, 2023. Ms. Scott grew up in Brooklyn and previously worked at the rec center in various part-time positions. I believe she'll be a great addition to the board, and that comes from the mayor.
Move to confirm Kim Scott to the City Rec Board.
Second.
May I ask a question? Who resigned?
Rebecca Bindus.
Oh, okay.
She moved out of the city.
Thank you.
To confirm the appointment, Sue Grodick,
Yes.
Ron Van Kirk,
Yes.
Meg Ryan Shaki,
Yes.
Andy Selhertz,
Yes.
Kathy Pucci,
Yes.
Aaron Borowski.
Yes.
Ordinance 2021-37, amending section 1360.99 for failure to comply with a notice or neglect of maintenance of the codified ordinances of the City of Brooklyn. Comments or questions?
Move to adopt.
Second.
To adopt, Sue Grodick,
Yes.
Ron Van Kirk,
Yes.
Meg Ryan Shaki,
Yes.
Andy Selhertz,
Yes.
Kathy Pucci.
Yes.
Aaron Borowski.
Yes.
Resolution 2022-2 is on first reading but hope to pass by suspension of the rules, creating an additional paid leave bank applicable to COVID-19 quarantining retroactive to January 1, 2022, and terminating on June 30th of 2022 and declaring an emergency. And as was discussed earlier, this is a 5-day bank. Any comments or questions?
Introduced by all to suspend the rules.
Second.
To suspend the rules, Sue Grodick,
Yes.
Ron Van Kirk,
Yes.
Meg Ryan Shaki.
Yes.
Andy Selhertz.
Yes.
Kathy Pucci.
Yes.
Aaron Borowski.
Yes.
To adopt, Sue Grodick,
Yes.
Ron Van Kirk,
Yes.
Meg Ryan Shaki,
Yes.
Andy Selhertz,
Yes.
Kathy Pucci.
Yes.
Aaron Borowski.
Yes.
And then lastly is ordinance 2022-1. This is authorizing the updated capital improvement plan for 2022. And again, this is in regards to the rec center roof, the price increases that we're seeing all across the country, and it's affecting this as well. We did have a brief discussion, I meant to mention this from Committee of the Whole, about possibly moving this project to next year in hopes that things level off a bit. But in the condition of the roof, that was not advisable, and so we did decide, at least recommend that council adopt this by emergency moving forward for this 2022 year. Any additional comments or questions on this? Okay, introduced by all, suspend the rules.
Second.
To suspend the rules, Sue Grodick,
Yes.
Ron Van Kirk,
Yes.
Meg Ryan Shaki.
Yes.
Andy Selhertz,
Yes.
Kathy Pucci.
Yes.
Aaron Borowski.
Yes.
To adopt, Sue Grodick,
Yes.
Ron Van Kirk,
Yes.
Meg Ryan Shaki,
Yes.
Andy Selhertz,
Yes.
Kathy Pucci,
Yes.
Aaron Borowski.
Yes.
That's all we have on our agenda this evening. Does anyone on council, the mayor, or the director have anything to add? Okay, move to adjourn.
Second.
To adjourn, Sue Grodick,
Yes.
Ron Van Kirk,
Yes.
Meg Ryan Shaki.
Yes.
Andy Selhertz,
Yes.
Kathy Pucci,
Yes.
Aaron Borowski.
Yes.
Thank you, everyone. Have a blessed evening.
You too.